Why I believe traditional Asian culture is messed up because of the suffering that was inflicted on me as I was growing up, and and are being taught to fit into this Asian culture from my family. But I will go into more detail why I dislike the Asian culture that I grew up with. And to be very clear, this I can only confidently speak about my own experience. So I am talking more specifically about Vietnamese culture, and also I was a young child in the early years of 1990. So that means that like to help me maintain an open mind, Asian culture may have changed since I had experienced this from a young age, but and that there may be differences between the various Asian cultures, for example, Japanese or other ones, but I will mainly speak about my own experience with this culture, and why I believe this did not work very well for me. So to start off, one thing I did not agree with or did not like about Asian culture, or the culture that my parents tried to kind of force me to maintain, is that there is this idea of hierarchy. And what this means is I believe anybody who has a larger or an older biological age. So, for example, a 50-year-old Asian person compared to a 10-year-old Asian, the or even just 1 year. So maybe a 50-year-old compared to a 49-year-old. The older person is typically treated with more authority, and from my vague memories of the time, when I was very young, I believe this culture implied that any person who was considered an authority should not and cannot be challenged, meaning that there was this kind of implied understanding that the authority people, like very old people or older siblings, were just magically correct all the time, and could not be flawed, and should be obeyed without questioning. And I think for my kind of brain, I think I have a habit of challenging things, and challenging ideas and understandings. So I kind of disliked growing up with this kind of Asian culture, because um, it, it just doesn't align with what I am value. So that's one part. Another part is that I think Asian cultures typically pressure young Asian kids, including myself, to perform very strong with academics. So when I was going through school and high school, and especially as the oldest sibling in my family, that there seemed to be quite some pressure for me to get high grades and very high numbers for tests. And and my younger self found this very stressful because I was like forced to commit so much time, effort, and concentration into things that I did not fully understand, or that I might not have really valued that much. So that there were times I really struggled to feel happy when interacting with my parents, because that there was often the experience, especially at a younger age, where I was forced to learn and to get better at specific activities. And one reason why I believe this is a problem is that because I think, at least with the Asian culture I experienced, there seems to be more emphasis on presentation than substance. And that means that if I am a young Asian kid and performing well with grades and scores, that is considered more valuable than my own mental health. And I think including my Asian culture, mental health was treated more as a weakness, and not something that should be recognized and should be accepted, and that we should learn to work with more easily, and practice lots of self-care and self-compassion. I believe that this Asian culture I was in had very mentally damaging mindsets of the end justifies the means, and we should work extremely hard, um, no matter how much health that it costs us. And me being the neurodiverse and very challenged person, which relates to my autism and my ADHD. This was very difficult for me to fit into this predefined culture that did not seem to recognize or support people like me. So naturally, as I was growing up, I had multiple meltdowns, partly because of the communication challenges between me and my parents, and partly because there was this Asian culture that was trying to be forced onto me that I did not really agree with, and I was too young to understand why I was so angry lots of the time, and I could not articulate that what my parents were teaching to me at the time with this Asian culture was something that I really struggled with, and did not really value as much as they thought this culture should be valued. But just to be very clear, I don't want to say that any culture is bad, and to help me maintain an open mind, and to remind myself how complex things in this world are. I believe all cultures have their own unique strengths and challenges. So as a brief example, if we take Japanese culture, for example, that would have some similarities to the Asian culture that I experienced, and I've heard stories or comments where the Japanese people seem to provide excellent service to consumers, or to tourists, or to customers, which is probably one of the best, I guess service providers in the world, and Japan is probably one of the safest places to live. The only problem is that, like with my experience, I believe these Asian cultures seem to put less emphasis on nurturing and supporting individuals, and more valuing the community or the group more. So that means that at least in the Asian culture I experience, each individual's mental health and needs were less likely to be supported, but as groups, we probably this kind of Asian culture probably produces better results when compared to, I guess, different cultures, like maybe the Western world. So like the Western world has, lots of empowerment to individuals, and maybe less emphasis on groups. Like some of the most wealthy people in America, like for example, maybe Elon Musk or Bill Gates or any of the TED Talk people. But in Asian cultures there is a very specific group focus or community which has its strengths and challenges. But for me personally, I could not fit in very easily to that kind of Asian culture. I needed to focus on myself as an individual, and I value taking care of my health and supporting myself enough before I can take on challenges. But that's kind of more insight into why I did not like the Asian culture that I grew up with. Um, and I'm just trying to remember right now what other things I disliked about Asian culture. Um, maybe one thing is that we and to extend the point I said about presentation is more valued than substance, and the presentation part made communication more challenging as well. Like I did not like having to regularly apologize to people, even though I got into a habit, and I learned much later in life that apologies are not really needed at all, especially with a growth mindset and clear communication of intent of what of how we learn from mistakes. But Asian culture also overburdens my already executively functioned overloaded brain, and having to apologize and address authority with very specific names in our language, like uncle or like auntie. That there's a very specific word for each title. If my memory is correct. Um, and and yeah, but just slowing myself down for a brief moment. I may have just gone through the main points about why I disliked the Asian culture that I grew up with. I'm trying to remember what else I disliked. Um, but off the top of my head, nothing really comes up. So yeah, maybe my struggles and stresses with this type of culture was mainly those things, and there were probably repeated occurrences of those negatively impacting things on me. Um, and maybe one related thing is that, um, and I'm not sure if my memory is correct about this. Excuse me, but I think to also relate with my comments about presentation. I'm guessing my Vietnamese culture also tries a bit too hard to be polite, and we probably communicate in a less efficient and more indirect way than maybe some other cultures. I have heard that is more of a thing with a Japanese culture, um, I am no expert on Vietnamese culture either, but I'm just doing my best to remember what I was I'm exposed to, or what my parents tried to teach me from a young age. But kind of fortunate for me was that I found opportunities to unlearn what was taught to me about Asian culture, and part of that was because my parents divorced when I was at a young age, like like almost my early teenage years. My parents divorced, and because my mum was trying to take care of my family in a very Australian and Western kind of environments. I think it made that more difficult for her to enforce Asian culture. So I was like, um, and the reason why that matters is because when my parents were together, the house was very Asian culture, because we had my parents there, we had my grandparents and uncles and aunties. But after the divorce, it was just my mum and my brother. So for the most part, I think I just either, or I might have slowly like let go of the Asian culture, and um it was kind of not enforced as much when my parents were together. But I believe my mum did not know any better, so she probably communicated with us and tried to punish us, or like steer us towards how she knows how to work with Asian culture. Um, but anyway, I think that was a slight tangent on connected thoughts, or connected patterns my brain suddenly found. But I think my guess is that Asian culture can communicate in a more indirect way than I would prefer. And and after so many years, and after reaching the age, the biological age that I am now, I I I've realized that because of my challenges from how my brain naturally functions, my preference is to communicate in the most direct, the most efficient, and the most open way possible, because I recognize that misunderstandings can happen very easily, partly because people have different understandings, and people might come from different cultures, or might have different knowledge, or different styles of communication. So one of my values is to minimize these misunderstandings, and make it easier for me to work with people, and to achieve mutual agreements and mutual understanding. And it is much easier for me to work with communication where I and the other person are very direct and very open with each other. And I don't like to guess. When there is ambiguity, I would rather ask questions to really confirm what the understanding is between me and people. So my guess is that Asian culture kind of encourages a more indirect form of communication to try and maintain harmony and politeness and things. But as I got older, I instinctively realized, and maybe I could not communicate how I felt and thought with words, but now I can confidently say that I reached a point in my life where I realized politeness was not really helping anyone. Um, yes, politeness is a better than being rude, but if I'm not polite and I'm not rude, surely there is nothing wrong with that neutral ground. And maybe that was another problem I had with Asian culture as well, was because we were so hyper polite with each other. People just had this snap judgment that if you are not polite, that must have meant you are rude. And I could vaguely sense that, and I did not agree with that. And sometimes I just did not feel like talking, or I just could not be bothered to put in the extra effort to be polite. Partly because of my executive functioning challenges. So so yeah, so that's partly why, or I mean, everything I've said until now has are reasons why I've disliked the Asian culture that I grew up with. Because this has caused me lots of suffering. Partly because the culture assumes things and treats people in ways that did not quite work for me, and also my parents, and I don't think my parents were like trying to be what's the phrase, like they weren't trying to stress me out. I think it is natural for parents to pass down cultures and things that they have learned and been a part of. But even so, from my early childhood, I was overwhelmed by being forced to comply with a culture that I did not fully understand, and that I did not really, I was not really given a choice whether I want to adopt this culture or not. So that there were some complex things together that overall made me really dislike this Asian culture. And I will say again that just to be clear, I'm not saying that Asian culture is 100% evil. It is a coincidence that the way this culture seems to have operated for the past however many hundreds or thousands of years, is suddenly causing people like me to suffer intensely, because we can't really fit into a culture that does not value supporting the individuals. So so yeah. And like I also said earlier in this video, I believe all cultures have their own strengths and challenges, and it just happens to be that the Asian culture has a bunch of flaws that are enough for me to reject this culture completely, or at least to the extent where the parts of this culture causes me harm. And yeah, so I can't think of anything else off the top of my head um, that came from Asian culture that caused my suffering while I was growing up. But if I think of something, I might talk about that in a future video. But long story short, no culture is perfect, and the Asian culture I grew up with was kind of built in a way that causes extreme suffering for people like me. So to help protect my own happiness, I chose to abandon this Asian culture and kind of develop my own culture from a blank slate, that is inspired by my own knowledge and understanding of my neurodiverse brain, and what is more likely to work for me and help me thrive. Thanks for watching.